Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday morning celebration on this Easter morning here at the Sierra Foothills Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Vicki Jungers, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you all here today. Ours is a faith that is bonded together not by doctrine or deity, but by a commitment to shared principles that guide us with justice, shared community, and love. If you are joining us for the first time today and expecting a service on the topic of Easter, I hope that you will not be disappointed. For while we share in spirit all the religious traditions that celebrate spring and renewal and rebirth, our focus today is to celebrate this remarkable earth that we all share and that is reaching out to us daily for our help and compassion, to care for her, to heal her, and support all who live upon her. For we are the stewards of this planet, and it is part of our SFUU mission to care for the earth. Before I invite you all into a deeper presence here, I do have a couple of quick announcements. The first is a reminder that all of our announcements and all the happenings at this church are in our weekly e-beacon. It goes out in the emails to you on Thursday, but it is now also available at any time after it's been published on our website. And if you go to www.mysfuu.org, there is a news tab, and if you click on the news tab, it will take you right to the current weekly e-beacon. So that's another way to easily access what's going on here at church. A couple other short announcements. The first is that next Sunday we will be having, for the first time in 2 years, our flower communion ceremony. We ask that you bring flowers with you to church to become a part of our altar and a part of our flower exchange. Please know that we are not asking you to go out and buy expensive flowers. They can come from a market, from your garden, from a trail hike that you went on. Your creative talents, make us a paper flower. Or to be pieces of any flowering greenery in your yard. Please bring that which you are able to share. My second announcement is, and I want to bring your attention to the next slide on the screen, our first in-person fundraiser after 2 years of COVID. So please mark your calendars. We'll be having a lot more information. We'll have tables out in the next couple of weeks. It's on May 14th, which is a Saturday, and it's at the park over here, Auburn Regional Park, not the one on Dry Creek, and it will be from 4 to 7 p.m. Our theme is country fair, so we will be playing games and eating food together and sharing time in person at the park. So I hope, and we will also be kicking off our online weekly auction. So please set that aside, please join us, and we look forward to having great beloved community together for our first fundraiser of 2022. The last announcement I have is the description of today's service asks what we as faithful UUs can do to reinvigorate our commitment to a healthy planet. As the members of Mission Earth, Janet, Carol, Tom, and Barb value your input, we would like to know how you envision the church's mission statement to care for the earth. If you're willing to help give some direction, we would appreciate if you will take a few minutes to complete a survey that is posted on the website. Just go to mysfuu.org, select Faith in Action, and choose Mission Earth, and you will get to the survey. Or if you know how to use the QR codes, which we're starting to use, and we'll have a training session on those, by the way. The QR codes are located at the back of the sanctuary. They say Mission Earth on them, and you can QR them and take the survey that way. But we'd really love everyone's input because caring for the earth is a part of our mission statement. And we want to hear from you, what are the best ways and exercises that we can live that mission as a church community. So I will now invite you to settle into this, our sacred space. Please place your cell phones on silent and come together with me as I welcome you with words from our previous beloved minister, Reverend A.J. Van Tyne. In all the beauty of languages and cultures and skin tones that come together in your uniqueness, you are welcome here. In all the ways you experience and express gender, you are welcome here. In the beauty that is who you love and how you love, you are welcome here. In all the varied ways you move through and interact with this world, you are welcome here. Through all the religious and ethical traditions that inform your spiritual life, you are welcome here. Whether you come joyfully today or are still anxious about the future of our nation, you are welcome here. No matter how long you have been away or how soon you return, you are welcome here. I invite you now to join us with an open mind, a loving heart, and willing hands as Janet starts us off with lighting our chalice.
Good morning. These words are from Saving Us by Katharine Hayhoe. Stop for a second and take a breath. That came from our planet. Then think about how every single resource we use in our lives is provided by the earth. From the water we drink and the food we consume, to the materials we use to build our houses and our clothes and our phones. All those resources are gifts from our home, planet Earth. I'd like to invite Nicholas to come up and light our chalice this morning. And as we light our chalice, may we give thanks for those gifts and commit to strive to live a lifestyle which respects, conserves, and even replenishes those gifts.
I'm Barb Munn, one member of Mission Earth, which is part of an SFUU group that includes Carol Coons, Janet Russell, and Tom Piet, way in the back there. Mission Earth this year, this spring, teamed up with Worship and with Rev Alex to bring you the 7 Weeks for 7 Generations program. So for the past 7 weeks, our congregation has been engaged in spiritual and ethical disciplines with a focus on caring for the earth, caring for our community, and caring for ourselves. These 7 weeks of mindful fasting, praying, and giving culminate today in this Easter/Earth Day service. Our hope is that you have grown in understanding yourself and deepened your relationship to those around you and to the earth itself. Many of us have been recording our practices each week, and in a moment you're going to be given another opportunity, a last opportunity to do that. But first I want to mention that guests at our table, which some of you have taken these boxes home, guests at our table is also drawing to a close today. It was just one of the 7 weeks outward practices of giving that some of us chose to do in order to support human rights issues around the world. So at this time, I invite you to take maybe the next 5 minutes. I'm going to keep my eye on the clock because we have a packed service for you. About the next 5 minutes to record the practices that you engaged in this past week on the posters. So there's posters on the walls, and in the very last column is this last week. Let's see. And also to offer up your guests at your table contribution by placing it hopefully in the envelope, because otherwise it might not fit. We're going to put it right here in this jar, guests at your table. And if you just have your box, you can set it right here next to it. If you don't want to do that for us, we'll do it. If you don't want to get up and move around, we'll happily come to you. Just raise your hand. We'll come and get your contribution and put it in the box for you. So if you're home streaming this right now, you can record your practices online by going to the SFUU website, mysfuu.org, and selecting worship. And from the down drop menu, just click on 7 weeks. It should take you to an online way to record what you've been doing. And if you're at home and you have guests at your table contributions, right on the side of the box, there's directions about what to do. Or you can bring them next week, and we'll collect them then and combine them with everything else. So. All right, so I invite you now to come on up and move around, stretch yourself a little bit, record your practices, and guests at your table. You can do the QR code and do the whatever for the Mission Earth. Right, so if the children want to come down, and we have a story just for you. And I know this is an intergenerational service, but this part is especially for you. I found a new book that's called Tantrum that Saved the World. So I'm going to read that to the kids. Bing bong! Sophia was minding her business one day when, quite without warning, a bear came to stay. The ice that he lived on had ceased to exist. He hoped that Sophia would kindly assist. Startled and flustered, Sophia said, "No!" But the bear came right in. He had nowhere to go. Bing bong! More out-of-towners arrived needing aid, asking if it was all right that they stayed. Somehow the seas have flooded our land. The kids ran right in. They were quite out of hand. Sophia attempted to turn them away. "We've got nowhere else," was all they could say. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bing bong. Surprising arrivals showed up all day long. A sad swarm of bees had not one idea if spring had just come or fall was quite near. A pale pink flamingo, hungry and weak, bugged a sea turtle whose outlook was bleak. Both were upset that the sites of their nests were being disrupted by unwanted guests. Farmers whose farmland was withered and dry griped with the seaman who couldn't get by. Where had the fish gone? Where was the rain? They wanted to work more, not sit and complain. A large Bengal tiger just chuffed with dismay. Everyone wisely stayed out of his way. They all turned to face her with hope in their eyes, expecting Sophia to halt their demise. "I'm just a kid. What can I do?" "Someone must help us. It's now up to you." Sophia, by this time, felt nothing but stress. Her day was disrupted. Her house was a mess. She had no idea how she ought to begin to help them all out of the bind they were in. Unable to put up a front anymore, she went to her bedroom and slammed shut the door. Hiding and fretting, she couldn't think why. These folks were resolved to gray up her blue sky. She wanted to scream and act uncontrolled, but tantrums were pointless. That's what she'd been told. Still, it wasn't Sophia's fault they were in strife. She'd tell them politely to get out of her life. But what she saw next brought Sophia up short. They weren't here to spite her. They needed support. All of a sudden, the girl understood goodwill costs nothing and does nothing but good. Oh, now that she realized compassion was key, Sophia would call on the powers that be. "Let's go," said Sophia. "Next stop, City Hall. The grown-ups would sort this mess out once for all. I need an appointment regarding this fauna who've noticed our planet's becoming a sauna. So bring us the top dog, the biggest big cheese, to solve all our problems and put us at ease." They said, "Take a number and wait, if you please." Do, 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 do. Sophia attempted to move things along. The fact we've been waiting so long is quite wrong. The tiger's hungrier by the minute. The pink flamingo reached its limit. The polar bear is far too warm. These bees can hardly form a swarm. Someone must help them. Why not you? "We see you're upset, but we've got things to do." Sophia felt beaten and quite disrespected. She never imagined that she'd be rejected. Again, she felt feelings of rage multiply, but she squashed them back down and started to cry. Her friends, also glum, gathered round in support. They all shared their stories to make the wait short. Sophia soon saw how each tale was connected, that everyone loses when one part's neglected. How would she feel if her land was depleted, her food disappeared, her home overheated, and what was to say that she wouldn't be next? She'd already noticed weird weather effects. How could their leaders command them to wait? If they dilly-dallied, would it be too late? Sophia thought deeply and then made her choice. She had to give those who'd been silenced a voice. Sophia stepped forward, ignoring the line. She spelled out the science and held up her sign. When someone else suffers, the whole world's affected. The earth is our home. We have to protect it. Despite her sound logic, she still was deflected. "Oh, your sentiments, sweet kid. What you don't get is fixing these problems will put us in debt. We've done all we can. You don't understand. You're too young to grasp all the issues at hand. If you've got something you still need to say, send in the form and we'll file it away." Pushed to her limit, Sophia saw red. She felt disregarded and mocked and misled. She did understand what this was about. It was her future they planned to sell out. Sophia's strong feelings smoldered once more, and this time they'd gotten too big to ignore. Raging with purpose, her banner unfurled, she kicked off a tantrum to save the whole world. It rumbled down streets into towns of all lands. It echoed in forests, on glaciers and sands. People and creatures alike felt its force. They ditched their distractions and looked for the sources. There were Sophia and her friends holding court, telling the people to lend their support. Cooperative action could turn this high tide. They had strength in numbers. Right was on their side. Step 1 was to stop using oil, gas, and coal. Step 2 was to educate every last soul on practical things they could do every day to have an effect in a positive way. They told their officials inside City Hall to pass laws with foresight to better them all. They told more people who told more folks still. They won hearts with kindness and minds with goodwill. and so on until everyone was doing the hard work that had to be done. Sophia's new friends soon waved her goodbye. They'd made second chances, had new homes to try. They asked her to visit for a weekend or two, but Sophia was busy. She had things to do. The end.
In this community of mutual care, we celebrate the great joys of life together, and we also help share the burdens of sorrow and grief. And as such, each week we share specific joys and sorrows from the lives of our members. We have a Joys and Sorrows book that you are invited to fill out anytime you're here. It's usually up in the front, and we do ask if you share a concern or joy that belongs to someone else, that they're aware that you are sharing it in a public forum, because we do share this information with our community. And you can also share within this space and say, please don't put it in the e-beacon. That's okay too. Today, we have my mother, Joyce Sanders, shares her great joy at living long enough to see the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. I personally am sharing my pride and joy in my son Riley as he has completed his 6-year contract with the United States Navy, and he is excited for his next adventure as he learns to be a dive instructor in Jacksonville, Florida. I can't believe it's been 6 years, but I'm glad he's out. For Good Friday, there is a thank you to Bob Coombs, Dean Metzner, and Tom Piet for their work on the SFUU grounds and landscape, and that is from Bob Niblack. We could not do all the things we do without all the love that all the love and skill that people offer here in their own time. So thank you to the landscape and grounds crew for making us more beautiful. Patty Campbell is joyful today. She welcomes grandbaby number 5 this morning. Patty Leftridge. Oh, Patty Leftridge. I'm sorry. Spelled it wrong. Patty Leftridge. All right, I'll see if I can get this name right. Finn Joseph Arthur Ghislaine Morage was born this morning in Welkenrath, Belgium. Congratulations, Patty. She has 5. I don't have any. I'm waiting. For all who wake today and suffer the anxieties, dangers, and sorrows of war, we hold each of you in our prayers and love. For all who feel alone in the burdens they carry in their hearts, know that we are here for you, and you need but to reach out for support. And for all who dance today in the light of joy and happiness, we extend our hearts and arms to you, so that we may be a part of that which makes you glad. I invite you now into a moment of peace as we let music bring into our hearts a rhythm that we share together.
So today is Easter Sunday, a high holy day for Christians that celebrates resurrection and renewal. It's a time when hope springs anew, just as fresh leaves and blossoms burst from the trees and the plants begin to work their way up through the ground to reach for the sun. As a child in the early 1960s, my maternal grandmother, who worked at a children's clothing store, would present me with a new dress and a bonnet every Easter. And my paternal grandmother would arrive on Sunday morning bearing Easter baskets filled with goodies. I just would dress up in my new finery, and I'd take up my basket, and I'd skip around the block in my patent leather shoes. I can still feel the breeze lift the ribbons on my bonnet and see the vibrant hues of the flowers in my neighbors' yards. This is one of the many times that I was held in the warm embrace of my family, living in a single moment of grace with no thought for the future. Maybe you have a similar memory. I invite you to close your eyes and cast yourself back to a time when you were maybe more carefree, to a carefree time in spring. Maybe it was Easter, maybe it was some other time when the chill was off the air, the birds were singing, and all was in harmony. I find comfort in such memories and know that for my grandmothers, who have long since died, my brothers and I were their hope for the future. Many of us have fierce hopes for our children and grandchildren, and we hope that they experience a life that is just as good or better than ours. But at a time when global temperature is rising at a rate faster than any time in the past, the natural world is no longer constant, and better outcomes for the next generation seem more and more remote. There is no doubt in my mind that the choices we make today will be felt 7 generations from now, for good or bad. Last year, a survey of 10,000 people aged 16 to 25 in 10 different countries, including the United States, found that more than 3/4 of these young people were frightened of the future. 4 out of 10 were hesitant to have children of their own. Sophia, a 22-year-old from Florida, asked, "Is it selfish for me to want to be a parent, to have this great experience, if when I die, I'm leaving my child in this apocalyptic world?" When I was 20, such a question was not even on my radar. A March New York Times article about mental health and climate change quotes Haley from Idaho saying, "I'm mad, I'm powerless, I'm exhausted, and I'm only 18. A 16-year-old said, "It's different for young people. For us, the destruction of the planet is personal." So, what can we do? How do we deal with this fear and anxiety without going numb, checking out, or shutting down? When faced with a global scale problem, how do we make it different for the next generation, let alone 7 generations from now? How do we do that? So one way that I've found to counter my climate anxiety is to practice hope. A practice is an activity that you do for yourself that gives you a sense of purpose and peace. It is not a one-off activity, but something habitual. Many practice meditation, gratitude, compassion. We learned about the practice of generosity last week, or even kindness as a practice. And these are activities that are all performed with intention on a regular basis. Hope as a practice, rather than as an emotion or a value, was articulated by Katharine Hayhoe in her book, Saving Us, which is right here, Saving Us. And although the primary focus of this book was actually to encourage everyone to talk about climate change, I was really fascinated by this passing mention of practicing hope in a single paragraph at the very end of the end section of that book. In this short paragraph, Katharine Hayhoe offers 3 steps for practicing hope. They are acceptance, self-reflection, and action. First, accept reality. We've all been exposed to the science behind climate change and the news of its impacts around the world. We have been exposed to that. The news is frightening, but often it doesn't feel immediate or personal. It's something that's happening to someone else somewhere far, far away from us, maybe at the poles or on some really far away island in the Pacific. However, it's becoming harder and harder to think of climate change as some far-off problem because we are already experiencing the effects of warming right here in Placer County. Have any of you felt these effects? Yeah. Let's put them right here. Let's put them right here in our sacred space. Can anyone share a local or personal reason why we should care about climate change? And I'm not talking about the polar bears. I'm talking about real problems that we face right here where we live. Does anyone have something they want to share? Oh. Tom.
We've all experienced these crazy weather patterns that fluctuates either between deluge or drought.
Deluge or drought? Somebody over here?
It just breaks my heart to see the trees that are suffering and falling. I don't know, what to do. You look at a tree and you think, will it make it through the summer?
We kind of track the birds that fly through our backyard, and we just noticed that the grosbeaks showed up about a week early this year. So.
We're experiencing increased fire risks.
Anyone else?
Also the fire risks, but I also have 3 children employed long-term in the snow industry. Wonder, will there be snow?
Will they have an income? Anyone else? It's a lot to put in our space, and there's a lot of air quality issues too on top of the fires. Even if our homes themselves are not burning, we still feel the effects of that through that. So accepting the reality of these local impacts motivates me to care about the threat of climate change on a much more personal level. And recognizing your motivations and can guide you toward action that has meaning for you. So the second ingredient for practicing hope is to use self-reflection. You want to do that to identify what you actually hope for. Many of us have been doing inward work during these past 7 weeks, practicing compassion for yourself, meditating on priorities, keeping a journal of deep questions or of gratitudes. Similarly, you can reflect on what's important in your life. Consider how that might be threatened by climate change, and then identify what you hope for instead. After accepting reality and identifying what you hope for, the final step is to take action. And this action is meant to move you in the direction of your hopes. What each of us chooses to do or not do about the climate crisis reflects who each of us are. Your wonderful self has skills to offer. Only you know your limits and how to stay in balance with the other parts of your life or the other demands in your life. But don't wait until you feel hopeful to act. Practicing hope means to focus on your intentions and let them guide you toward actions that support your hopes. You may find yourself trying and discarding actions until you find what suits your needs and abilities. For example, last summer I got really inspired to read this book about biochar, which according to the authors is the answer to every single problem you can possibly imagine. I read the whole book and then I realized at the end, reading through the appendix and how to build these stoves, there's no way I was ever going to build a stove to create biochars. It just wasn't me. So if any of you want a book about biochar, welcome to pass it on to you. But that didn't stop me from moving on. Last spring, along with many of you, I watched that documentary, Kiss the Ground. Does anybody watch that one? It's really good if you haven't seen it, Kiss the Ground. And I discovered how regenerative agriculture can effectively store carbon in the ground. Now, I'm not a large-scale farmer, but I do have a garden. And I thought, I'm going to explore books about regenerative gardening. So I did that. And now, not only do I enjoy the plenty of my garden, or our garden, it's not just mine, but by adjusting how I garden, I now know that I'm storing a little bit of carbon in my own yard. So that's a good thing. The point is that if you treat hope as a practice, then you keep at it until you find what works for you, what's going to work for you. So once you begin to do things that are within your means and grounded in your motivations and your hopes, you will feel a sense of purpose that feeds your spirit and lowers your levels of anxiety. It does. Not only that, but as you interact with others on a similar path, your circle of influence grows larger. So I'm going to illustrate that. So I don't know, this is something my grandmother gave me. Anybody, if you have these nested dolls? Okay, so this little bitty doll, this little bitty doll, is us doing our little individual actions. It's us doing, these can be lifestyle changes, like attending meetings virtually. Or they can be technological changes, like changing your bulbs to LEDs or installing rooftop solar if you can afford that. My favorite low-carbon habit that I do, my little itty-bitty self does, is to hang my laundry out on the line to dry. And I find it really, really calming a rhythm in pinning and unpinning the clothes from the line. And I like to feel the sun beating down, warming my head and neck, and hear the birds calling to each other. I just love being out there doing this. And this one low-carbon habit not only makes me feel like I'm making a difference, but it feeds my soul, just being out there in nature. In addition, it makes what I'm doing visible. So I can tell you that I have at least one neighbor now who is also hanging their laundry out. I don't know if I influence them, but I like to feel that. So I did that. So individual actions do matter. They not only inspire others to take action, but also inspire your better self to adopt still more actions, and thus your influence grows. So now I become a little bit bigger. Further growth happens when you reach out and you act with others. So I'm going to reach out, I'm going to act with others. Oh, I got even bigger right here. So the way I did that is I joined the Mission Earth team. And you're welcome, any of you are welcome to join the Mission Earth team, and which then offered all of you opportunities to care for the earth. And as you join groups with larger spheres of influence, you scale up even more. So I went and I thought, well, I need to do more. So I joined this group through Plaster People of Faith Together. It's a plastic climate action group. And I also have been attending meetings for California Interfaith Power and Light. And the California Interfaith Power and Light influenced me to participate in their climate lobby days, where constituents meet with their state legislators about supporting climate change, legislation for acting on climate change. And I admit that lobbying legislators is way out of my comfort zone, but I thought, this aligns with my hope for larger systemic changes beyond what I can do as an individual, beyond the smaller little person, little doll inside this thing. And so I went and I did it. And they're actually having them again in June or August if any of you are interested in joining me in doing that. So now I'm bigger still. What comes next? I don't know. And what works for you, only you know. But I know that every action we take multiplies in effectiveness by working collectively with others and by talking. So you get to your larger and larger spheres of influence. So that's my illustration of that. Perhaps my favorite quote from Katharine Hayhoe's book, Saving Us, is that important problems don't get fixed until enough ordinary people mobilize to take action. Action reinforces and deepens our sense of agency, inspires the people around us, and can ultimately lead to what Hayhoe calls a contagion of action, a contagion of action. This was nicely illustrated by the children's story, where Sophia started by joining with others, with most vulnerable people or beings, to voice concerns, which led to educating others, fasting from fossil fuels, lobbying local government, and having endless heartfelt conversations until the positive outcome allowed all their uninvited guests to wave goodbye. Wave goodbye. And the reality is that this happily ever after ending is actually doable. It's actually doable. There are solutions already out there that will keep our lives comfortable without burning carbon. It's actually doable. We just need the political will to make these changes. Easter is a time of hope, and there are a growing number of young people who choose to practice hope by remaining focused on positive climate solutions and making these happen. It is not too late. Colin Donaldson, a 25-year-old climate activist, notes that he hates it when people say that one person can't make a difference. Yes, he says, it takes a whole group, but it takes one person to start, one person to inspire, and one person to raise a voice. May we all be that voice. Thank you. Now, if you feel like it, you can either rise or stay seated. We're going to watch a video called a music video, and the words are there so you can sing along if you want, if you feel like getting up and moving around after this long talk. It's called Louder, with Keb Mo and the younger generation.
Good morning, everybody. As we end our 7 weeks for 7 generations today on Easter Sunday, I've been thinking about the overall theme of these past weeks, which is renewing our faith. Faith, as our Buddhist guest Reverend Leahy explained, faith is trust in something bigger than ourselves, trust that is rooted deep in our hearts. Our practices, fasting, praying, and giving, both inward and outward, have given us opportunities to examine and grow and demonstrate and even feel the faith that binds us together and binds us to our world. I remember that first Sunday when Reverend Alex brought out the balls of yarn and said, I just need 6 volunteers. And we created this web, a tangible demonstration of how we are bound together. And the next Sunday, it magically appeared overhead. And for me, and maybe for you too, that felt like not only are we connected to each other, but we're connected to the universe and all of creation. Knowing that I'm not alone, that I have you and I have the universe at my back, bolsters my faith and it bolsters my trust. Generosity has been another reoccurring theme of these past 7 weeks, and nowhere in my life do I feel that spirit more than I feel it here. You are generous with your time, with your money, with your words of encouragement and gratitude, and you're so generous with your reflections on Sunday mornings, sharing what's in your heart, and sometimes with such profound vulnerability. What a display of trust that is. I was doing some reading about Easter, about how that message of salvation can reach those of us who identify as humanists, and I came across an Easter message by Reverend Jim Fody from the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, and he says, this is what saviors look like. People providing each with bits of salvation all of the time, a hot meal, a look that says, I understand, a safe place to be one another's true self, a knowledge, a piece of missing knowledge clicking into place, a song that makes the heart sing, a social action that brings the world closer to justice. Salvation as generosity in action. Reverend Fody finishes his remarks by saying that this is something we can live out and live into and believe in on Easter Sunday and on all the other days that the world needs saving. May it be so.
It is often said that the offering is the gift of the free church. That is to say that everything this congregation is and has is what you bring to it. Our time, our talents, and our treasures. You all brought your treasures today, right? Okay. In person, this is embodied by the powerful ritual of literally passing the plate and chipping in. If it's easier, you can continue to contribute to our collection by going to the website mysfuu.org/give or using the text to give. And if you like to take out your phone, you can follow the instructions here on the screen as well and give that way. That way you have your digital treasure with you. Okay. As part of our ethic of generosity, we also split our monthly collection with our local community organization aligned with our values. This month, the Share the Plate recipient is the Auburn Interfaith Food Closet. The Auburn Interfaith Food Closet is a local organization which provides nutritious food for those in need, preserving their dignity and encouraging self-reliance.
This pretty planet spinning through space, your garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giant, spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light. This pretty planet spinning through space, you're a garden, you're a harbor, you're a holy place. Golden sun going down, gentle blue giant, spin us around. All through the night, safe till the morning light.
As we go forward into our week, into spring and into summer, remember to hold with value the lessons, the teachings, and the love from all who came before you in your families and your interactions within your own communities. Then take these lessons and build upon them for the children who come after us, who will grow to be the keepers of this beautiful world that is currently in our care. Know that every action you take in support of caring for the earth, both large and small, impact our lives, our history, both today and tomorrow. You are the savior of this planet, and this planet has been waiting for each and every moment of action and commitment. And when you take action and when you make commitment, these are the moments in which your light shines brightly for justice for our world and compassion for all. I invite you now to rise and listen and feel free to sing along with our virtual SFUU choir, Blue Boat Home.
Mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
So if you'd like to join me in our closing words, and please, if you get a chance, go out to the website or use the QR code and fill out the survey about what it is that you want for us in our mission of caring for the earth here at SFUU. As we go forth, may we carry the flame of love and peace with justice until we meet again